Preach it, man. We got a caller. Let's see. This caller still wants to speak. Caller, you're live on It's Real Talk Radio.
Yeah, you just blanked me. I'm sitting here waiting all night to say hello.
Yes,
it is. Yes,
what's going on, Ebony? You know when you call, it's like 111. I don't know who it is, so I ain't know who it was, But we just had these things that we had to talk about and get through because we're trying to spread an important message and shed light on this situation. People that are dating people with personality disorders, and you're like a life coach or something, right? Like you kind of, you're on your show because Ebony has her own talk radio show too. Great show. And, you focus on relationships and stuff, so I know this is not the first time you've heard about this, probably by you tuning in right now. And it was just so important that we got through all of that stuff that we was trying to discuss because these are the key traits that, will stand out and let you know for the people who are ignorant towards it that, you might have a serious issue and you might need to evaluate it and remove yourself. Ebony, it's great to have you on. A Happy New Year. What's going on? Talk to us.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, guys. And it's a really good topic. I loved it. I loved the points you were making. I thought it was really interesting. I had a question for Trent, maybe, for both of you. When you're going through this stuff with somebody, what do you think about the contribution you may have made to kind of almost, you were talking about being sucked in and this person doing what they did, and it's a lot of doing too, i.e. that person doing to you. So what was your contribution to it? Because when we're in a relationship and we get sucked in by someone, it often is because, you've taken your guard down or you're not really focused on hearing and responding to the things that you hear, the red flags that come up.
Right.
So how do you feel about your contribution to that? Because we do contribute, right?
Yeah. I'm speaking. I guess it's okay. I'm glad that question's brought up because it's kind of what I was trying to say here a minute ago. The process of going through this, I have discovered a whole lot about myself, and so it's been an experience that I really wouldn't wish on anybody, but as it turns out, it's been I've grown a lot as a human being. And that's because, their part's easy to see. They're crazy. We see that. And it's real easy to get focused on that. And not to say that anything about it's okay or to minimize that, but ultimately I think we have to take a good hard look at ourselves. And I don't identify as a victim. I was victimized, but I don't identify as a victim per se. I got in this relationship, after losing my first wife, and I was vulnerable, and I was lonely, and I had no business getting into a relationship. I wasn't ready. I don't beat myself up over that because it was just kind of where I was at. I didn't know better. But I think it's important to realize that we need to be healthy ourselves emotionally and, be prepared to be in a relationship entirely. And I wasn't. Looking back on it now, I definitely see that. And with these people in particular, we talked about it, how she had me figured out from things, from childhood. My dad left when I was 2 months old, and kind of my history, and she understood that, so she played into all of those fears that I had, all that abandonment, all that stuff. And so I saw her as, not consciously, but I saw her as making me okay, making me complete, kind of a thing. And is that kind of answer the question, or?
Yeah, because I think that's the biggest mistake people make.
Yes.
It's a bit like a vampire feeding off your blood, but it's like you still have to be there, making yourself almost available to it, and it's not being ready. I'm glad you said that. When you're not ready for a relationship, maybe the lesson is not to go in there, not to go out there, because the vouchers are waiting. Okay, and they do, and it is that it's like, you know, because I've done some dating lately, and I met a guy, and he, interesting, we went for dinner. This was just yesterday. We went for dinner, and so it's a live experience, and he started talking about, just at the end of the dinner, you know, all the things that he didn't like. So I was on my way back from work, we met up, and you know, when you've worked all day, you've just come from a corporate environment, so you're not going out on a date socially. You actually are going to meet up with someone, but you're still in your work mode, okay?
Right.
So he was like, "Oh, I like it when girls, you know, dress up sexy for me and this and that." And I was like, "Excuse me?" You know, I was like, "Excuse me?" Like, you know, it would be nice if you wore this. And then he had comments about other things, and I was like, okay, so I could respond, you know, because critiquing is where some of the shit starts, right?
Right.
People start to critique you, and you accept the critique because you're vulnerable. Maybe your self-esteem is low.
Right.
But as someone whose self-esteem is not low, I listened to it, and I said, okay, I can respond now, and I know you're going to be in pain, right? I'm going to wait until you've had a chance to forget this, and then I'm going to bring it up, okay? So I waited, and I let it go, and I just laughed at the time. I smiled, and then the next day I called him, and I said, okay, you know that conversation we had, right? I said, so why would you be critiquing anybody? Okay, and he was like, well, no, I was just saying this. I was just saying what I thought. Look, so let me tell you something. I could tell you what I think, and do you really want to know what I think? Because if I tell you that actually when I look at you, you're not what I am looking for, okay? But I just accept you for who you are, so there's not an issue. Could you just do the same for me? Because if I start picking at you, you're going to be in so much pain, you didn't even want to even speak to me again, right? And he was like, oh, okay. And I said, but I understand it because that's what we do. And it's maybe your way of projecting things that you're not happy about yourself, but don't do it. Yeah, just don't do it. And that's the kind of thing that you've got to be aware when you're meeting people, and you know that people have their own hang-ups, there's shit going on. It's like, where do I fit in this? And do I see what I see? And how do I want to respond to it? When you see some of those behaviors and you hear things, it's like you've got to be on point. You've got to be ready. Yeah, and you've got to be able to take action if you see that it's so severe that it could damage you, because people will damage you. Hurt people. That's true. And there are people out there who are hurt, and, you know, they've got things going on. You don't know who they are. You don't know where they're coming from. We're all from different worlds, and I think it's to work it out as quickly as you can. What is it that's going on, and not to be listened, not to kind of be trapped by the hype, because everybody has their hype, and the hype lasts probably about, 90 days or so of hyping, and then suddenly the real person starts to emerge from underneath that. And and I think your job is to try and bring it out as quickly as you can, so you can make a true assessment about who you're with and whether you want to be there.
Right.
You know what, though, Ebony? Unfortunately, and I agree with most of the stuff you're saying, but some people are just beyond, like some people, they call it masking. Like, some people are so good at hiding their true self. Sometimes you could be with someone for years and not know them yet. And some people are good. Like, there's no way to fully guard yourself and prevent yourself from dating a fraud, from marrying a fraud, from spending 5-10 years of your life with a fraud, because some people are just that good, just almost the same way like an artist is just born naturally gifted and can just paint or draw really well. Like, that's it's like an evil gift that they're born with, to be able to deceive and kind of draw you in. And it's almost like you have to experience it to understand what it's like. And then once you've experienced it, I think you're in a way better situation to avoid it in the future, because you'll pick up on some of on those things. I think it's almost impossible to be able to avoid, to really be able to identify it and avoid it without experiencing it. And even if you experienced it, that still doesn't mean that you necessarily are going to avoid it again, because another person might be good in another way. You know what I mean? They might have other skills that they use to lure you in, and it might be another 5 years of your life, and then you realize this person is another fraud. And it's like, oh my goodness, like 8 years of my life between two people gone. And it's unfortunate. You do the best you can. You learn. You live, you learn, you adapt. Keep your fingers crossed, keep your faith, hope for the best, but there is no way to without experiencing it, there's no way to really brace yourself for these types of relationships with these people.
Yeah, but I wanted to say this. There is something about your own defense mechanism for people like that. And just to say that sometimes people who are that way, they'll run away from you before you even have to run away from them.
Oh yeah. That's the devaluation part we was talking about, Trenton.
Yeah, or even the discard phase. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Discard, the lack of empathy, all that stuff.
But as soon as they realize that you're not the person that will work for them, because it's one of those things. It's like a need and supply. If they feel like that you're the person that will fit what they want, they will stick around. Like I dated this guy, and he just seemed like the perfect guy, right? Let me just say the perfect doesn't exist, okay? So I knew straight away when I saw all the perfectness that there was going to be an issue. Straight away, I identified it. You know, I'm the single guy, perfect body. I'm just looking for this kind of person, and it's looking beyond the words. But I didn't spend my time focusing on him in terms of, is this true or isn't true, or is it not true? I just focused on putting to him how clear I was about me. How clear I was about what I wanted, and what I would put up with, and what I wouldn't put, and what wouldn't work for me. And I really focused that conversation on him for a good week. And he just disappeared without me even saying anything, doing anything. He just, one day I called him, no answer, phone changed, blah, blah. And I knew why it was. I knew exactly why it was. He just thought, this is not one of those people that I can just manipulate. It's not going to happen. So he just got rid of himself.
If I could just add, if I could just add to that, I mean, kind of my perspective on it, I think both of what you're saying is both have very valid points. I remember when, like, early on, people would point out to me, like, well, what did you do? Like, it can't be one-sided. And I got really defensive early on, thinking, okay, I'm not taking responsibility for the things she did, and I still don't think I should have to. However, I think Ebony, right? It's Ebony? Yeah. I think what Ebony is pointing out is really, really important. It's not that I ever had any bad intent or I was doing any of those things that she did, but it was important for me to realize that I did play a part. I allowed certain things because of my vulnerability, because of my own fears or insecurities at the time. And that's not to take responsibility like, hey, you're going to be the bad guy, so am I. It's because we can't control what other people are doing, but we can control ourselves. We can put some clear boundaries around ourselves. And, I think it's so important to acknowledge that, yes, they are very, very good at what they do, but they're keen. They have a keen ability to recognize those weaknesses in people and those vulnerabilities. So I think it's about making ourselves really healthy and creating strong boundaries in our own life, and that's what I'm kind of pointing out that's happened for me, is I've become a much stronger, healthier person as a result of this. And I recognize because I'm in the dating world now myself, and I've been in situations where I recognize things today that I won't tolerate. Where in the past I think I would have probably ignored them. And I know today what I want, what I'm willing to have in my life. And so back then it's like I just didn't know. I was very ignorant to it, but I was also very susceptible to it.